there's a range of where we would expect the price to be. It could be 100,000 or 300,000. And I said, if Trump wins, we'll be at the top end of the range. If Kamala wins, we'll be at the bottom. And so here we are. Trump won, and we are rocketing to the upper band of that range right now. By 2030, I think $1 million Bitcoin is at play. And then I think maybe in the next 6-7 years, we're at $2 to $3 million per Bitcoin.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And then it just keeps going from there.
Mark Moss is a seasoned Bitcoin macro-focused investor with over 25 years of experience. And according to him, Bitcoin is heading for explosive growth, with prices ranging from $100,000 to $300,000 in the near term and up to $1 million by 2030. Trump's pro-Bitcoin stance and institutional FOMO are speeding up its adoption like never before. At the same time, Michael Saylor's massive $2 billion Bitcoin purchase is influencing even more institutions to follow along the bullish momentum. As demand from both governments and institutions soars, Bitcoin is being pushed to parabolic height. Let us now watch Mark Moss as he explains how institutional and sovereign FOMO are set to skyrocket Bitcoin like never before. Give this video a like to show your support, subscribe for your daily dose of crypto news, and let's begin.
Hi guys, hope to see you guys at Dubai Token 2049. We have exclusive 10% off the limited super early bird tickets. Click the link below. This pass will grant you access to speaking sessions, networking app, exhibition hall, daily networking drinks, and also included breakfast, lunch, and coffee breaks, all included the package. I love to see everyone there. Peace out.
So Bitcoin moves in sort of 4-year cycles, and these 4-year cycles are debt or global liquidity cycles. And they move on 4-year cycles. That happens to overlap with the election cycle and the Bitcoin halving cycle, the 4-year business ISM cycle. And so we typically see like 3 good years and 1 bad year. So let's say, where does Bitcoin get to the end of next year? And then maybe where does it get to by 2030? Yeah. So I think that now with Trump being president, I thought the range was somewhere between 1 to 300. And with Trump being president, I think we're at the top part of that range. Maybe we're in the 200 to 250 range. And I hate to say that publicly because it sounds so big, but at this rate of institutional now sovereign FOMO, I think that's a reality. I think by let's put this out in the public here. I think by 2030, I think $1 million Bitcoin is at play. And the reason why I would say that is because if we know that asset prices are going up with the expansion of the monetary supply, the governments already tell us how much the monetary supply is going to expand by 2030. The CBO of the US puts that number out. Now, we know we're going to well exceed that number. We know that Bitcoin is typically moving on about a 9-time sensitivity. So for every 10% increase in global liquidity, Bitcoin's going up about 90%. It's just a math equation at this point. So I think we're at about 1 million. And then I think maybe in the next 6-7 years, we're at $2 to $3 million per Bitcoin.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And then it just keeps going from there. There's a lot of ways that we can back into this number. So we can look at the inflation number. Another way that we look at this is we say, okay, so right now, well, 2025, so we're talking end of next year. So that'll be the end of this 4-year cycle. And it's when the global liquidity cycle starts running out of liquidity before we get into the next tranche. So if we look at the previous cycles, we can see how Bitcoin goes up and down. And so, like I said, we get this range. And so if you want to look at it from like a Metcalfe's law, so like Jurrien Timmer from Fidelity sort of uses this model. There's like a power law model. There's a stock to flow model. There's lots of different indicators that we can look at. But like I said, that range is in that $1 to $300,000 range. And the reason why I'm choosing the top end of that range, the last one got a little bit muted. And part of that's because that's right when the Fed started to raise rates. And I think it got a little bit muted. But what I would expect on this next one is to be on the high end because of now, like I said, with the Trump presidency, to the point that you made, him being the Bitcoin president, the amount of institutional FOMO, as well as the record acceleration of debt. Now, and it's not just that. I believe that Trump is going to be the Trump administration and the policy and the DOGE, efficiency part of the government. I believe that the economy is going to be unleashed. I expect for the economy to take off, and that's also going to be inflationary. It's not going to be good. I expect a lot more inflation through next year. And so when you add all of those things in, I believe we're at the high end, and that's where we get to about a $300,000 number. I like to say that if anybody's looking at their portfolio on a monthly or 6-month basis, you're just never going to make it. Right. I'm currently building a house in Mexico. Thanksgiving will be my first weekend there. I'm so excited. And I've been building that for 4 years. Like 4 years. Like who's looking at an asset in monthly? Like who cares where it's at the end of the year? But what I would say is, should we buy the dip or should we buy right now 100%? And rather than me tell you that, Let's just look at the actions of Michael Saylor.
Mm-hmm.
They just bought $2 billion worth of Bitcoin at $80,000. They're not waiting for a dip, and neither should you.
Bitcoin is gearing up for massive growth as U.S. President Donald Trump doubles down on crypto support. Recent leaks reveal his team is planning to appoint a White House crypto representative to oversee federal cryptocurrency policy. As reported by Bloomberg, Trump's top team is meeting with Bitcoin and crypto experts and industry executives to discuss creating a White House role dedicated to cryptocurrency policy, overseeing policy and regulation across the federal government. This aligns with Trump's revolutionary plan to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the planet and establish a Bitcoin strategic reserve to address national debt. Trump's administration is packed with pro-Bitcoin leaders, including Commerce Secretary Pick Howard Lutnick and Health Secretary nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr., both strong advocates of Bitcoin's power to reshape finance. With speculators now giving a 40% chance of a U.S. Bitcoin reserve, the world is set for Bitcoin's next explosive chapter. Now, let's turn back to Mark Moss for more insights on this topic.
And basically what I'm talking about is sovereign FOMO. We saw Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy has sort of kicked off this institutional FOMO, if you will, but that takes a while to come in. It's starting to come in. It's gonna keep coming in, but now we're starting to see sovereign FOMO. So at the Bitcoin conference this year in July in Nashville, I spoke there on the main stage right before Trump. I was on the news desk reporting on RFK's talk, and both of them came with a pro-Bitcoin policy. And specifically, even RFK laid out a plan to put Bitcoin on the strategic reserve, to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and laid out a plan of how they want to accumulate and so forth. Obviously, RFK rolled into the Trump campaign, but both of them ran on this pro-Bitcoin platform. And then Senator Lummis from Wyoming has put in a bill into the House already to just do that, put it on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And the plan is to add 200,000 Bitcoin per year to get to a point of 1 million Bitcoin on the books. Now, going back to this, I said, look, Trump is favored, 65% to win at the time. And if he wins, I think there's a very high probability that this will happen, that it'll go on the strategic reserve. And the reason why that's important to understand is but specifically in the world of business, and then even more in investing, hedge funds and institutional investors, competition is real. If a hedge fund were to adopt a strategy, let's say put Bitcoin in their strategy and outperform, then other ones would then sort of be forced to do the same thing. And when El Salvador started putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet several years ago, El Salvador is one of the poorest nations in the world. Nobody really paid attention to that. But now, several years later, they see what it's done to El Salvador. When Bitcoin hits 100,000, which we're probably a week or two away from, they'll be able to pay off the IMF. It's never been done before. It's an amazing feat. They've attracted so much investment capital that other small nations, Omar, Sudan, UAE, are paying attention, are doing the same thing. But here's the thing. If the US does this, now we're talking about influencing G7 nations, G20 nations. And that's exactly what's happening. And I think right now, because we've got a complete red sweep of the House, the Senate, the presidency, because the bill's already in place, most likely this goes through. Senator Lummis was saying she wants to get this done within 100 days of the presidency. And other nations are starting to pay attention to this. And I think they are starting to buy, and that's really putting a lot of pressure onto the price. So per the plan, they want to add 200,000 Bitcoin per year to over 5 years to get to 1 million Bitcoin. Now, let's just do some basic math here. So what happens with Bitcoin is, unlike other assets, I mean, it's a commodity, all right? And commodities are different than equities. So equities, we value them based off of cash flow and assets and PE ratios and things like that. But with commodities, it's very simple, supply and demand. Right. Whether it's gold, uranium, or copper, it's just supply and demand. Now, understanding demand in an oil market is very difficult, but understanding demand in Bitcoin is much simpler. Number one, the supply is fixed. So if gold explodes to 10,000 an ounce, more people go mine gold, more gold comes into the ecosystem, so there's more inflation. But with Bitcoin, if Bitcoin goes to 10 million, more people go mine, but it doesn't bring more Bitcoin out. So Bitcoin has a fixed supply issuance. We'll cap at 21 million. Currently, right now, there's about 328,000 Bitcoin per year being created through mining. And no amount of increased mining effort will bring more of that. That's it. That's fixed. So then we look at what's the demand of that. Well, you add in the government wants to buy, the US government wants to buy 200,000 a year. So there's only 328,000. They want to buy 200. Now back to Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy has also committed to, I believe, 42 billion over the next 3 years. Now at current prices, that's about 175,000 Bitcoin a year. So just two buyers right there have committed to buy more Bitcoin than is currently being produced over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, what's also interesting to understand about this is if it was a hedge fund or, some Wall Street institution, something like that, they're traders and they're going to trade around the price and they'll try to get it at the right time, buy the dip, so to speak. But what MicroStrategy has proven to us is they don't do that. They just buy on a consistent basis. They're not price sensitive. And Michael Saylor said, I'll buy at $1 million. I'll buy every top, 2 million, whatever. And the government is also the same way. They're not traders. They're not price sensitive. And so what that means is that we'll have a strong, steady demand over the next 3 to 5 years, more demand than is being created. And that's just from 2 buyers. That doesn't include the Wall Street ETFs that you talked about that are the best performing ETFs in history. That doesn't include other institutional FOMO that we have and family offices and sovereigns coming in. And so we are going to have, that's the math. We're going to have a massive amount of pressure on a fixed supply asset. And I think there's a point coming up not too far out where the US is going to have to do something drastic in order to keep its currency strong. And that could be either letting gold get revalued up to some market value, maybe that's 10,000 an ounce or 20,000 an ounce, or moving to like a Bitcoin standard. Something has to happen in order to shore up the currency. Otherwise, China's going to do it. And this is the game theory again. China seems to be angling for this. Most gold analysts will tell you this. They seem to be angling to somehow back some of their currency with gold. And if that happens and the US doesn't, it's going to pull all the demand over to the Chinese currency or whatever this gold situation that they set up. And so the US has a tough decision. Do we allow China to do that and take all of our steam, this game theory, if you will, or do we preempt them with some move on our own? And I believe that day is coming in the next couple of years. And so do we do that with gold, or are we 5D? Do we go all in and we do that with Bitcoin? I don't think they're going to do it with Bitcoin. So I think probably getting rid of the gold would be a bad idea. I don't think we need to do, I think we can do both. I think we can build up the strategic Bitcoin reserve to match the gold price and even more, and still hold on to the gold that we have at the same time.
As pro-Bitcoin policies edge closer to approval and institutional investments surge, the crypto market is on the brink of a new wave of adoption. These developments could surely propel Bitcoin to unimaginable price levels, with estimates hitting $300,000 or more in the near future. Do you agree with Mark Moss' outlook? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for sticking with us until the end of the video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this discussion, and subscribe for more valuable discussions on building true independence through crypto. See you next time. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.